You see a lot of stories online about how horrible a homeowners association could be and how it's best to never get involved in one because of arbitrary rules and outrageous fines and mandatory fee payments. Of course, you also hear people say that HOA itself isn't bad. It's usually the individual boards and the bylaws that make them bad. I believe those that said it was individual, so when my job required me to relocate to this town, I scrutinized any place that had an HOA to see if it was acceptable to me. Pine Forest seemed like the perfect HOA, or at least as perfect as a group of strangers dictating what you were allowed to do could be. The bylaws were fairly reasonable. I had a lawyer friend look them over to decipher the jargon for me. They had some social events open to the public, but some social events were exclusive to the community. Finally, the rural neighborhood wasn't filled with cookie-cutter houses. Each was unique, so that the area looked natural instead of designed. It was gorgeous, and I couldn't wait to sign the papers. Though I realized on my first day that not all of my neighbors were pleasant. Some pot-bellied jerk parked at the end of my drive and catcalled me. I politely waved him off, but then he got into a wind, calling me very degrading names. Yeah, that's how you get women to want you. The moving company had to carry everything in from the road because he still wouldn't move. It ended with me calling the HOA office. I finished moving in a couple of days ago and was finally able to sort through my mail. I got the usual bills and junk mail, but I also got a couple of cards from my neighbors welcoming me to the community. Finally, at the bottom of the stack, I found a letter labeled Exclusive Community Event Reminder.
Dear resident, it's that time of year again, and most of you already know what to do. We had a few new members join our community, so for their benefit we will include the details. The annual Corpse Day is coming up, which falls on the same day every year. Everyone will be expected to go to their assigned shelter. Your shelter is at Redacted. Those that don't report intended attendance to their assigned shelter will be automatically given a single night's worth of winter survival. Those that remain at home will receive a fine for the price of these supplies and any necessary repairs. We will be following the same guidelines from last year. Members are to wear a face mask and remain with their household group. Each group is to maintain a 6-foot distance from other groups. The shelters have dividers marked for convenience.
I couldn't decide how I felt about it at first, but the event was later that day, so I decided to ask about it when they brought my supplies. If they hadn't insisted the letter was fully accurate, if they had implied it was some sort of game, maybe I would have gone. I'd have played along with their silly game and been none the wiser. I told the head of the Pine Forest HOA and she thanked me for the feedback. I'm not sure if she'll actually employ it. I wasn't going to get cold, there weren't any storms expected, so there was no real reason I would even open the box on my living room floor. I wouldn't have to pay any fines. It will be fine. I locked up and settled back to enjoy my evening reading. The first thing I noticed was the cold. I know it's only January and supposed to get cold, but the weatherman isn't usually off by 30 degrees. I turned on the weather app, maybe I misremembered, but they were saying the same temperatures with nothing about a sudden cold front moving in. There was shouting outside. I peeked out the windows behind my curtains, curious but not brave enough to venture outside. One of my neighbors was running down the road, being chased by dozens of people. They looked odd. The skin was wider than it should be, and clumps of eyes hung to their entire body. They were fast, so fast the individual details of their faces and clothes seemed too blurry, and before long, they had my neighbor surrounded. I shortly realized that this was the guy who had catcalled me on my first day here. As the crowd closed in on him, he stopped shouting. It was as if they had held a conversation while they crept closer and closer, until one stepped forward. I couldn't hear what they said, but he embraced the one that came forward. His skin faded to a much lighter color, and clumps of eyes blossomed all over his body. Fog stopped coming from his mouth. They released him. He stood there. He turned to me. They all turned to me. I gasped and dropped the curtain. Okay, it was time to open that box. Laying on top was a letter. So you decided to stay home. I can only assume you're one of the new members. Take this box with you and barricade yourself in the bathroom before you do anything more. Good luck. I did as the letter said. Inside was a space heater. I plugged it in immediately and turned it up. Then there was a sleeping bag. I put that on the bottom of my bathtub, thankfully dry. There was some snack foods to help through the night, some caffeinated beverage and a few bottles of water. Then another letter at the bottom and a flashlight.
Hey Tabby, I suspected you might stay behind, but I'm still hoping that I'm wrong as I type this up. You want answers. Unfortunately, nobody has those answers. Make sure that the heater's turned up as hot as it can go. You want that bathroom to be as warm as possible in case the power goes out. It usually happens when people stay home for Corpse Day. So, what we do know is that every year on this day, a bunch of frozen corpses walk through our neighborhood. Only our neighborhood. Nowhere else. If you're outside, they'll steal all of your body heat. But it's never enough for them. At least they take the bodies with them. No cleanup necessary.
My mind turned back to what happened to the cat caller, and I shrugged. Though I really disliked him, I wouldn't have wished that death upon anyone. I double-checked the towel shoved against the bottom of the door and went back to the ladder.
Just because you're in the bathroom doesn't mean you're safe. They can enter any area that is below freezing. Barriers won't keep them out. They can just manifest into the cold space closest to you. I don't know why they break the windows. Maybe to hurry the cold to you. If you find the cold creeping in, because the power went out usually, there's a mantra you can repeat to keep them away. We don't know why it works, but it works. The mantra is, Mithra, keep me safe and warm.
I checked the time on my phone and saw it was only an hour past midnight. My phone had no service. Now of all times, I muttered to myself. I was getting uncomfortably warm, but I wasn't about to turn the heater off. I'd seen the bodies. I watched that eyes grow from cat-collar skin with my own eyes. I laid down on the sleeping bag and decided to wait until morning. I woke up as my body shivered forcefully and the ends of my fingers ached. I don't remember going to sleep. I checked the thermostat on the bathroom wall, barely above freezing. Shit, they would be getting inside soon. Images of what happened to the cat caller flashed through my mind and I considered my impending doom. I swear my thoughts summoned him. I could hear them outside the bathroom door. "Tabby, open up," he called out to me. I still don't remember ever telling him my name, and I can't fathom how he would have found out. "Tabby, join the frost," he cooed me. I saw what happened when he joined the frost. It wasn't pleasant. I looked at the thermostat again. It had dropped another couple of degrees. I was barely 3 digits above freezing. I checked my phone and saw it was only just 2 in the morning. There was a chant, a mantra. Where's that paper? I eventually found it underneath the sleeping bag. "Mithra, keep me safe and warm," I yelled out, feeling silly and doomed. The thermostat rose by 1 degree, but that was 1 degree further from my demise. I can do this. I just need to keep it up, I thought to myself. "Mithra, keep me safe and warm." The sun wouldn't rise until at least 7. It didn't matter how well the door was barricaded. If it got cold enough, they would get in. I wasn't sure how, but I didn't want to find out. I cracked open the caffeinated beverage and spent the rest of the night chanting loudly. The power didn't return until the electric company came out the next day, and by then I could barely speak. My throat is still so raw. Next year I'm going to the shelter. For now, I pay the fine and get these repairs done on my house.